everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Love You to Life podcast. I'm your one of your hosts, Elizabeth White, and this is
Cavill Day.
she didn't know what I was going to do. I have to keep shifting it. I have to keep moving it around because sometimes, you just can't let her get used to nothing. You have to just keep surprising her every single time.
Mm.
Okay, anyway, hi guys. Today we're talking about decluttering. So, we're going to talk about decluttering your mind and not just your closet. Now, let the record show.
Record is reflecting.
I love a clean closet. I
She
love
does.
a good closet. So much so that I just finished a renovation at my house and I turned a spare bedroom into a walk-in closet for me. And it was because you know what? I It was going to be good for my mental health, I think. I wanted to reduce chaos and clutter. I wanted more organization. I wanted more space. And as we were talking about my closet, I was thinking like many of us probably could do the same thing mentally. We could strategically make a plan to create thinking patterns and habits and systems that allow us to feel more free, to feel more open, to feel more luxe, to feel more aligned. I think alignment is a very important way to feel like that you feel like you're lined up in your life, like you know which direction you're going in. And so, as I did that closet, and it was a long process, I started it probably last year and just finished it a year later with what we finally got as a finished product.
I
But
mean, but you had like a baby. And you did some others. You did
I
some stuff
did.
in there. It wasn't like you just was sitting there half done for a year. I mean, it was a work in process. You had to wait on. You had to wait on stuff to ship. I mean, like it was a whole process.
But it still was done in phases. It's
Right.
nothing that was done overnight. So we're using it as a metaphor. It was not done overnight. It still was done in phases. We had to have a plan. We had to work the plan, get support with the plan, and then finish it and look at the finished product. But let me tell you something. This closet, people love my closet. And I'm not even really done with how I really wanted to look. I'm not even done. But we have family in town and everybody's like, girl, we love this closet. I'm even our good friend of the family is like a brother to us. He came by one day and he was like, what? I mean, I wasn't even finished yet. And he was like, oh, I need this. I need this. And
Oh.
so that's a literal closet. And that was decluttering experience that we literally had. But it's so important that we are thinking about the mental clutter
Right.
because how many of us are going through every single day but we feel in some ways weighted down,
Mm.
like we just can't get it together, like maybe going through quicksand or walking through mud. You just can't get your flow the way you want to. Well, I'm going to suggest that we evaluate whether you've got some mental clutter going on, and if so, give you some strategies on how to start to clear that. What do you think, Cal?
Well, I think the first thing we got to talk about is like what qualifies as clutter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think when there's that old like running joke about like women who have my mind is like 50 is like a computer with 57 tabs open, and I can't figure out which one the sound is coming from. Like there's a lot of different things that we might consider a part of the mental load
Mm-hmm.
that are just like particularly the mental load of motherhood, the mental load of being a wife, the mental load of being a business owner, the mental load of being, I mean, maybe the mental load of being in corporate America, the
Mm-hmm.
mental load of being a caregiver, like all of the things that go with that becomes clutter.
Yeah.
So we're talking about to-do lists. We're talking about running goals. We're talking about that 10 pounds that you've been wanting to lose for the last 10 years. We're talking about the emotions that you won't process because you don't want to deal with them. We're talking about which one of your kids likes which juice box and which one. My kids this week was like, Mom, I don't like this Lunchable. What? It's a pepperoni pizza Lunchable. No, I don't. This one doesn't. I like the bread in this one, but I don't like the pepperoni in that one. Like, which kid likes which one? Like, all of that becomes clutter in your mind, but it's also the way you think about each of those things, right? So, are you putting yourself in a position where you're thinking that it's your responsibility to do all of these different things? Are you thinking that it's your responsibility to figure out this stuff, to handle all this stuff? Like, so it's like a junk drawer, but it's full of all this different stuff. And what that actually kind of shows up as in our lives can vary from person to person. But I think it's really, really important that we identify what that clutter actually is.
Yeah, because when you bring up the idea of the junk drawer, then the junk drawer, I mean, my junk drawer has stuff in it some stuff that I need to keep. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's one of the challenges is that when it's time to go through your thinking, we've got to start looking at what do you want to keep, what do you need, and what needs to be
Right.
thrown away, right? So you mentioned there, like some things are actually important things. If you have some goals that you haven't completed, then that might need to stay. On the other hand, some of the minor things like the Lunchable, that
Mm-hmm.
one might be able to go. So I think we got to start to sort out what am I keeping and what needs to go, and that's kind of how we're gonna start to figure out what's in the junk drawer, what needs to be decluttered from the mental load too.
Right.
Yeah. So, what does it look like? It can look like unfinished business,
Mm.
I think. I think it can look like limiting beliefs. Like you
Mm-hmm.
don't think you can do something, or because you haven't been successful in something before, you're afraid that you can't be successful in that thing now. I think it can also look like um, sometimes the death of a dream.
Mm.
People are um losing sight of something that was important to them, and not knowing how to do it, or if they can still do it, or if they can still have it. And then it's just also probably expectations from other folks.
Yeah.
Other people have these things that they think we should be doing that maybe don't work for us anymore. So mental clutter can look a lot of different ways, and each of us are going to have to look in at our own lives and determine what we need to be working on most. But we wanted to give you some examples of what that could look like. Because
Yeah.
once you know what it looks like, then we have to start talking about what it's costing you.
Right, right. And I think that's the real point, right? Like that's the real piece of the puzzle is there's this idea that I'm carrying it all and it's fine. Right? Like
Mm.
this is what I'm supposed to be doing this is just mom life. This is what moms do or this is just what it's like to be a business owner that like it was like an online conversation with somebody and they were a business owner and they were talking about I can't wait to get rid of all this back office stuff that I have to do. And I asked the question. I said, "Well, do you have admin support for that?" And they're like, "Well, no, not yet." And I'm like, "Well, do it. What's stopping you from doing that?" But I think part of the time is because we haven't really paid attention to what it's costing us. We don't go that next step. This is a really stupid one.
What?
Years ago, I had a car and I used to do home based therapy. And as I was driving the car, I had it parked on the street and somebody broke my mirror. And for the longest time, I hated looking at that mirror. And every time I would get in my car, it was in my mind that like, oh, driving around this car with the broken mirror. And it was like just there. But I never actually looked to see how much it would cost to replace the mirror. I remember the exact number now, y'all. It's probably like $30. It was some stupid, like a very stupid number. But I let it stay up there think about how many times I got in and out of my car, and I'm thinking like, oh, and it's taking up space, and that space could have been used for something else. So when we talk about this clutter and why it's so important to focus, not because a lot of us will go in our garage and clean out some stuff, we'll go in our bedroom and clean out the drawers, but the time and the energy that it takes to kind of clear out that mental part, if you are holding space for something that has no value.
Mm.
It's costing you in more ways than one. It might be costing you in what you are not able to invest in, right? It might be costing you in relationships. It might be costing you in your physical health. Decision fatigue. Can we dig in on decision fatigue for a minute? Because I feel like decision fatigue is one of those things that people really, really underestimate the cost of that one. Like decision fatigue is crazy.
Well, I think that's part of it is that we really are not looking at the cost of the mental clutter,
Right.
right? And so the thing about it is like every single time, what I always tell my coaching clients when I'm working with them is like when you have a space, a literal space that is cluttered, clutter speaks to you because it's going
Mm,
to tell you something. Clutter's going to say, "Hey, I should be somewhere else. Hey,
that's
I'm
a
out."
bar. Clutter is talking to you. What is it saying?
Right. So if you look at something that's out of place, that thing is saying, I should be somewhere else. or it's saying, should I be here? Or it's saying, you said you were going to put me away. Or it's saying, hey, find a place for me. So you also, when you have mental clutter, that same thing is happening. There's these conversations that are kind of running in the background all the time. And so then when it's time to make decisions that matter, you've used up your juice on stuff that you
Right.
don't need. So listen,
Right.
when you have that, so when we're talking about decision fatigue, it is being tired of making decisions. That's what it is. Decision fatigue is being tired of making decisions, right? And what we don't realize is that sometimes when we're in indecision, we're still making decisions. We're
I'm
deciding.
deciding not to decide.
I'm deciding not to decide. I'm deciding to stay the same. I'm deciding to still be tormented by this. I'm deciding to still allow this to take up juice. And what it does is like leaving the light on in your car and going in the house. It is draining the battery. It's
Mm-hmm.
draining the battery. So we have to ask ourselves, what are you thinking about that needs to be handled? What are you thinking about
Right.
that is contributing to that clutter mentally, and how can you get it straight, right? So when I think about decision fatigue, I think about avoidance, I think about procrastination, and I think many of us could have stories of having done that before in life.
Right.
You human, you've avoided something or procrastinated. But here's the thing, what does it cost you to
Mm.
procrastinate? What does it cost you to avoid? So in the example that you use, Kat, about the mirror being broken, every single day, several times a day, juice was coming out of your tank mentally and emotionally because you were thinking about this mirror being broken rather than to have taken the action earlier to figure out how to fix it.
And I'm telling you, y'all, that's the truth. Because I can remember going to, like, I was working home based therapy and I was just starting to build my business. And I can remember going to a networking event and parking far away because I didn't want to see nobody getting out of the, you see me getting out of the car that with this busted mirror. So when I'm supposed to be going in and presenting confidence, I'm supposed to be going in and showing what I have. I'm supposed to be going in as a business owner. And here I am still hanging on to this $30 busted mirror and feeling, shame about it. That those two things don't go together. So many times, if you don't clear the clutter, what you're really doing is you're staying in this in between phase when you really need to step into your full space. I was listening to somebody yesterday and she's like, if you want to really change your life, start dressing like the person you're becoming and not the person that you were. Because every time you put on the clothes of that person who never made good decisions or who failed out of college or who is in student loan debt or whatever like you are still embodying that. And so every time you allow that clutter to not be cleared, every time you just kind of like, I just keep, I'll think about that tomorrow. I'll deal with that tomorrow. Every time you do that, you're basically telling yourself not to trust yourself.
Oh,
So
that's
when
not.
you're talking about people who are struggling, this is a classic one that we would hear from our Love You to Lifers when we had the club, and it's definitely something I hear from time to time with coaching clients too. It's like I just want to be more confident because I'm telling people all the time, if you want to promote your business, you want to be on video, you're the face of your brand literally, but you're afraid to get in front of the camera. You don't feel confident. Why? Why don't you feel confident? Because in your mind, you're thinking about the fact that you got that extra 10 pounds on your face. You're thinking about the fact that your hair is grayer. Okay, like stop thinking about it. Just make a decision and do something about it. Like, what do you want to do about it? Do you want to have your makeup professionally done? Do you want to go get some rinse from the store or whatever? Make a decision because it's costing you to not make the decision. And so many times we think like, well, I'll just deal with that later. That moment you think about it, it's not coming back. So you've already spent it. You spent that moment thinking about it. If you don't deal with it, you're not going to ever get that moment back. So you're just giving more and more moments to that same thing. And when you look back, 6 months, a year, 2 years later, and you're thinking like, I've been dealing with this for 5 years. I've been dealing with it. It's because clutter feels almost like normal. I think we've kind of normalized it, right? Like it almost feels like, well, this is how everybody is. Like everybody has a busy life. No, they don't.
Have mercy, my God.
Everybody doesn't have that.
But
Some
I think
people actually have made conscious decisions to not. Like, like you can do that too.
we've normalized it.
Hmm.
Yeah, we've made it familiar, right? And so,
Right.
yes, you and I still have a junk drawer. Do you still have a junk drawer at your house?
I mean, I have a drawer that I call the junk drawer, but there's really probably only 5 things in it. It's got like a Rocky poop bag, and it's got like a hammer. I mean, like it really it. Growing up, our junk drawer was like one of those drawers where you couldn't quite open it because the stuff was just like jumping out of it. So when I think of a junk drawer, I say no, I don't have one because it's intentionally the smallest drawer in my kitchen. And I know exactly what is in that drawer. So technically, it's not a junk drawer because I won't just put stuff in it just for the sake of getting it off the counter. Like that's what we used to do. I just want to get off the counter, put it in a drawer. I just want to put it in a drawer. So it's intentionally the smallest drawer in my kitchen. And there's probably I call it a junk drawer because there's a hodgepodge of things in there, but I know exactly what is in there and I can actually see the bottom of the drawer. So
Okay, so I have a little bit more of a junk drawer than that. It's not huge, but it's definitely more than a junk drawer. But I was just going to say that we assume that everybody has a junk drawer
right.
and everybody doesn't necessarily have a junk drawer,
No.
right? Because some people might have done the work already to be able to put everything that's supposed to be in a place in its place compared
Mhm.
to some of us who haven't. And so we want to be asking ourselves, do we have the mental bandwidth to keep this emotional clutter that we have
Mm.
and these thinking patterns that don't work for us, or do we need to get in here and declutter this mental space and get rid of this mental junk drawer? But I think it's hard sometimes because we are used to it, like it's always been there, or been there a long time.
Ooh,
And
I got an example that you just used this week.
what?
I'm
Don't try
gonna
to put
pull it
my
up.
business out on the podcast. Put your business out on the podcast.
You had one this week that was really, and I think it's like a perfect example because it shows
She get on
like,
my nerves. She got my nerves so bad. Okay,
okay,
what?
y'all.
I don't even know what she's gonna say. For real, for real. I don't know.
When we had the baby shower last year,
Yeah.
she made this decision to
Uh-huh.
get all of her cards from the baby shower.
Yeah.
This is a good example. Now, right, this is a good example. She
Yeah.
made this conscious decision to get all of the cards. I did not know this was a service, but lo and behold, she probably saw it on TikTok, y'all, because she'll do anything on TikTok. But she found this service where you send them your card and they will turn it into a book.
Hmm.
And hey, shout out, y'all want to sponsor us? Go ahead. Um, so she sent it off, and I mean, like through the, I think like this was out in California, so like through the wildfires and everything, they still came through and did what they were supposed to do. And so they sent her back the cards and the book. Book is beautiful, very well done. She loves it. And she says to me the other day, now, baby's almost a year, okay? We got the book, we got the cards back. She's like, am I really gonna throw away these cards? And I was like, yeah, why would you keep them? You have the book that literally shows the front and the back of every single card.
Uh-huh.
So why would you keep them?
Right.
And but it's the emotional piece of we don't throw away cards. Like we save cards. I mean, we have all the cards, right? But that piece of it, and this is a really like super simple one, but there's probably other ways.
Yeah.
So it's like that was an example of like the physical clutter of the cards, but it was based upon the emotional clutter of can I let go of this thing that I've always done? I've always saved cards. So it's like she made the conscious decision to get the cards put into the book, but she still.
But here's the reason. Now I'm gonna help you now. I'm gonna help you now. And here's the reason that we can stay cluttered. Sometimes we stay cluttered because there's guilt about letting things go.
Mm,
So even though I had taken the time to memorialize, like, and commemorate the love and appreciation I have for the people that came to the shower and gave me a card, they're still like, oh, but they're so thoughtful, and they took out the time to pick this beautiful card for my baby and me and my husband. What, this is such a thoughtful thing. Why would I want to let it go? It was the potential guilt of letting
right.
it go. And so I had to really work through, like, okay, but you took the steps to honor them by having
Yes.
this book made, and you therefore don't have to keep these original cards. You can let them go. And so I did. I got rid of them that day. I shredded them. And got rid of them. I think I kept just one card for her, from the one from her godparents. I think I kept that one. But the rest of them are in the book, and I got 2 copies of the book. We always have a copy of the book, and the rest of them are gone. And so I got rid of them that day. But that's the thing. What would have happened a year from now is that I would have seen that stack of cards and be like, where do I put them? Where do
Right.
they go? What do I do with them? How do I do whatever, right? And so we're touching stuff 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10
My God.
in our lives. We're touching stuff 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times, and the energy that we're spending on that is not useful, because now I don't have to make that decision again, and I have the energy and
Right.
the bandwidth to make a decision that is bigger or better or more important or whatever now that I wouldn't have had before. But I
Right.
think if I'm being honest about it, it would have been like, I don't. It would be guilt about letting go of something that was given to me, something that was thoughtful, and how would they feel about it? But that's probably part of the reason that we're staying cluttered, is that we
Right.
have other people's expectations, what we believe they think. Like
Mm.
some of those people, we're holding on to the past, right? And some of those people might not even have known that I still had those cards, because maybe
Here it
that's
is.
not what they do. Maybe they don't keep cards. They're like, we gave you the card, we expressed our sentiment, and we're done with it. And they probably don't even keep them. But it was something that did like momentarily cross my mind. But now I want to ask y'all, are you holding
Mm.
on to stuff? Because get off of me. Get off. Get off of me. Are you holding on to the past in some way? And is that cluttering up your thinking? Are you holding on to old dreams? Are you holding on to old opinions? Are you holding on to old trauma or trauma loops? Like, are
Mm.
you holding on to something that's cluttering you up mentally, that you keep touching 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times, that is keeping you from being able to move forward? Well, Liz, what do you mean? I mean, are you having conversations with yourself over and over and over about the same doggone things?
My God. My God.
I mean,
Mm.
are you doing that? If so, then there's mental clutter that I'm going to encourage you to clean out. And so how do you know? I don't have no quiz for you on figuring out if you are cluttered up mentally. But if you have 2 or 3 or 4 areas of life that you're not satisfied in, we're probably
Right.
going to be able to say, yeah, there's something going on there that is stopping the pipe for you mentally and emotionally that you could deal with.
Yeah, and I think what it like probably really a really like simple example is if you are looking for growth in a particular area of your life, right? Let's say um you have started a business, and you know that one of the things that would help your business is for more people to know that you have a business, because that's one of the things that people really do, right? They start these businesses, they have an idea, but they're almost too embarrassed or too insecure or concerned about like how people will receive this idea. So
Mm.
if you get ready to do something and there's a thought that pops up and stops you, that's how you know. So it's like, oh, I should post about my business today, but so when that but comes up, that's something that's keeping you cluttered. It's those thoughts that stop you from living your best life, right?
Right.
It's that thought that pops up and says, I can't do that. I shouldn't do that. Um, One of those, like for me, was like, people like me don't do that, right?
Ooh.
Like, um, am I going to be the only person to do it? Like, my family wouldn't do this. Like, no, like those kind of things. And a lot of times, guys, when we talk about loving you to life, let's just be really, really clear. You may be the first one in your family that's doing some of these things.
Yeah.
So it may be that everybody in your family says, we have to always get together for the family reunion. And every year, the family reunion is 10 times more work for one to two little handful of people that's chasing people down for their $50 for the t-shirt.
Shut up.
And you really, really want to do something different when you are spending so much of your time caring about those other people's opinions, right? Um, that is a lot of times what's keeping you from being able to move forward. So it's like, it's not that you can't hold on to, like, I think we as a people are like very traditional people. Like we value tradition, we
Mhm.
value ceremony. We
Mhm.
believe in honoring the elders, like all those different things. Like those are good things, and they're not things that you necessarily have to get rid of or completely throw out. But I think it's about deciding what works for you and what works for you in this current season. If it's limiting your life, it probably needs to be cleared out.
Mhm.
If it's enhancing your life, right? If you're saying like, this is bringing me joy, this is bringing me happiness, this is bringing me peace, this is bringing me positive memories, okay, great. But if it's limiting your life, it's probably a thought pattern that needs to be eliminated. And For the record, we're not going to get into a whole bunch of brain science here. But for the record, there is neural pathways, like there's actual parts of your brain that if you have thought a thought for a long time, it's ingrained in that, right? Like think about it like a chain. If you put every time you think that thought, you put a link on that chain. You know them big old, big chains like so every time you think that thought, you put that link on it and it's solid. In order for you to change the way that you're thinking to really clear that clutter, you have to unlink that. And part of what you do to do that is build a new chain. So you got to like build a chain to the appropriate thought process or the appropriate pattern of thoughts. And that will eventually eliminate or at least reduce the size of that chain. For a lot of us, the things that we are thinking in 2025 really started in 1978, 1985, 1992. Those things may or may not be serving you in 2025 is what we're saying.
Yeah, and so if
So
you're going to start that decluttering process, I think the example that you just gave us there is that you're pulling everything out. You're getting honest about what's
let it
really
see the light.
in, right? So when you go to declutter a space, you got to go and pull everything out of the space and say, what do I have here? What's really going on? So ask yourself some questions like, what am I really thinking about? What's in my head? What thoughts do I have? What have I been thinking lately? You might just be able to ask yourself, what have I been thinking about today, and get some insight. So what you're starting right there, what do I have? Let me pull everything out. What's been going on? Then
Right.
you probably need to sort it. So you gave
Mhm.
examples there of like, hey, there's something in the family system. There's something that I'm thinking about in my workplace. There's something I'm out of alignment with my body. There's something. So
Mhm.
you gotta kind of sort it out. Like, where do I not feel as successful or as happy or
Right.
as loving? Because the Love Your Life Club. Where do I not feel as loved in my life? In what
Mm.
area do I think I'm not loving myself in? And sort that out. And then you got to figure out what you keeping and what you gonna let go of.
Period.
But here's the challenge, y'all. Some of us are not willing to disappoint the ancestors. Some of us feel like if mama thought it, I need to think it. If this is the way the family's always done it, this is what I need to do. Some of us have a problem with that. Some of us are very, very afraid of letting go of something that is the way we've always done it, that is the way our family does it, that is the way our mama told us to do it. Let me tell you something. I love
Mm.
my mother. I love my mother, but I'm not going to do all of the things the way she might want them done, because that is her mental process or her mental clutter that guides her decision making. And maybe I don't have that story, so I don't have to do it that same way. I think, have y'all heard that example? There's an example of a person who was making a ham, and it's Thanksgiving time,
Mhm.
making a ham, and she's like, well, this is how we always make the ham. You cut this side of the ham off and you put it in the pan and blah, blah, blah. And somebody asked her, well, why do you cut that side of the ham off? And she was like, I don't know. This is just the way my mama taught me to do it. This is the way we've always done it. So she calls her mom and she's like, Mom, why do we cut the side of the ham off? And she's like, well, I don't know. That's just the way your granny always did it. So that's just what
Mhm.
we did. So then they said, well, let's call Granny and see why did we cut the side off. So they called Granny and they said, Granny, why did we cut the side of the pan of the ham off? And she said, oh, I didn't have a pan big enough to cook the ham. That was not a recipe. That
Period.
was not Granny's recipe that she was passing down to you. Granny didn't have a pan big enough. You, ma'am, have 25 pans, ma'am. You don't have to cook the ham the same way Granny cooked the ham, ma'am. You're not even asking questions about why it's being passed down this way. Where did this come from? Why do we believe what we believe? Why do we think what we think? Why do we do what we do? And then you find out it ain't no real good reason for it. It was just based upon that circumstance at that time. So now you done wasted a whole bunch of ham because you threw out ham that you could have cooked, and you passed down something that was unnecessary to pass down, right? You had a belief about something that was wasting time and energy. And so you've got to get clear about what you want to keep and what you want to let go of.
And really, there's a word in the ham story. I think there's a
Oh,
word for the
Lord.
people in the ham story. I think
Lord.
there's a word
What's
because when you think about it, I mean, we sure don't want to waste no ham in this family. We believe in eating all of our ham
First of all, well, hardly any of us eat ham anymore, Cal.
once a year. Okay, once a year. But what I'm saying is, as you are blindly
Yeah.
following tradition, you are wasting opportunities for enjoyment.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are just gonna say like, well, we always did this, like growing up, we probably we like the idea of like going on a vacation that wasn't to see family wasn't something we really did. Like we just our vacations were to see family, and we might get a little sidebar to go see something else along the way. But like vacations where we're going to see family. So if I continued that pattern in my adult life with my own family, I'm only going to places where my other family has chosen to live.
Mm-hmm.
I have not, the other 40 states that nobody lives in, and I've cut off the other countries that nobody lives in. Like, why is that the case? No, we want to make decisions. And I said this to my daughter a couple weeks ago when I took her out for her birthday. Like, every decision you make is either making your life bigger or smaller. And so, in your life, as you're thinking about the way that you think, you probably have a pattern where you're either making decisions that are consistently making your life smaller or consistently making your life bigger. And that's one of those things that you want to figure out is, as I'm pulling things out, as I'm sorting these thought processes, which, these ones that I know are not making my life bigger, I need to let go. The ones that are helping me to expand, I need to do more of that. And once you start to do that, it opens you up and you can start to think about like, well, what would give me more of that? Like once I know like, okay, these are the type of thoughts that make me feel good. These are the type of thoughts, like one thought, you're going to have one thought that tells you to go to the gym and one that tells you to go to the drive-thru.
Oh my goodness, why is she doing that? Not the gym and the drive-through
Today. And so what you have to decide is like, okay, the more I make, and it's not saying you can't do like you can't do both, right? You can have a life that has both, but you're going to have to lean more towards the one that gets you towards the life you actually want. And so that's the key here as we're clear. It's not just clearing out the bad thoughts, but it's adding in the thoughts that actually are going to be helpful for you. Right. And let's just also go on the record of saying this. It can be very helpful to talk through these things with a professional. It might be a therapist, it might be a coach, but it can be really, really helpful because I'm going to tell you my absolute favorite thing to hear a client say is, I never thought of it that way.
Right, exactly.
And it's my favorite thing because of the fact that it's like the thoughts were there. Like I'm literally not I'm not telling you nothing. I'm just shining the light on what you actually have been saying to yourself inside your head for the last 20, 30, 40 years.
Right.
So those thoughts inside your head sometimes needs to see the light of day, and having another person who can do that. And yes, you might have a sister friend that can do that, but sometimes people help you to stay in your stupid thoughts. So you might want to work with somebody who gets great pleasure and enjoyment and has great skill in not allowing you to like marinate in those thoughts that are not super helpful for you.
But that's the L in lifer. When we gave them the acronym for who a lifer is, you have to learn what matters most to you.
Period.
Right. And so you really got to get clear about that. And that's the same thing you would do if you were decluttering a closet. You're going to go through and say like, what is important to me in this space? What do I want to keep? What do I want to hold on to? And then you've got to say, well, what thinking patterns are working for me? What thoughts are helping me produce the results that I like? And then you say, well, what thoughts are working against that? And that's kind of how you do it. Many of us are still walking around here beating ourselves up about our past.
Stop it.
We are beating ourselves up about our past. Many of us are walking around here being defined by our past. I am not defined by my past. I'm defined by my decisions today.
Period.
There are some things in the past that I really don't like that I did it that way, or it created some sort of hardship for me, or it was something I was disappointed about, or whatever. But I am not defined by that. I am defined by my decisions today. And so now I get to say, hey, this did not work for me before. I want to do it differently because I want this outcome. And then I say, how do I get to that outcome? What do I need to do today to get to that outcome? And when you start to do that, that's when you start really thinking clearly. Like, listen.
Oh, here she go. She done tickled herself, y'all. Here she go.
You know how we grew up Baptist. Did y'all grow up Baptist or what? I don't know. I don't know who grew up Baptist did. Okay. We grew up Baptist, okay? We grew up Baptist. They used to say, I woke up in my right mind.
Oh, God.
They used to be so happy that they woke up in their right mind. It was not until I got good.
I'm like, would you have known if you didn't? Like, that doesn't even make sense.
I don't know. But I just, it tickles me because it wasn't until I got good and grown and I was like, The old folks was owning something, dude. Bruh, like, look, they were like, bruh, being in your right mind, bruh, that is something. And so here's the thing I want to offer you. Like, you can be in your right mind, even though sometimes you have wrong thoughts. And I'm using right and wrong loosely because I really don't define things that way. But just for the purpose of our conversation, I'm using right and wrong. But here's what you want to do. You want to be able to find those thoughts that are not working, those wrong ones, in quotes, find those wrong ones and get them right. And
Right.
so you have to reframe them, you have to challenge them. That's what you got to do. But you have to do that. But it's something to be said about being in your right mind. Okay, the old folks you say
I
I was
cannot believe you sitting up here quoting
right.
somebody from Macedonia. I cannot believe it.
That's
I
what
cannot.
they said.
A
But
testimony. She's quoting a testimony from 1983. I cannot.
bruh, you know how my nieces be like, bruh,
Um,
they was on to something. That you woke up in your right mind, you can think clearly. Like, even being able to say, this thought doesn't work for me. I realize I'm
right.
thinking it. I don't know how to change it right now, but I know it gotta go. That's something I can work with. I can
Yeah,
work
because I do think there's a certain amount of people that feel like if a thought comes, it's just there.
I,
Like, and that's
I,
not true. Like the thought can come, the thought can go. Like it came and went. It
let me
came
tell
and
you
went.
something. A thought that don't work, like, I'll be boxing thoughts.
Are we boxing thoughts now? Are we boxing
I'll be
thoughts? Is
boxing
that what
thoughts.
we're doing?
I'll be boxing thoughts. If you ain't had to box a thought, what are you really doing? What are you really doing? Boy, you better get out of here, stinking thought.
This is a serious podcast. This is a professional setting.
Oh my
Boxing
God.
thoughts.
I done made my blood come down. Listen, it's the truth.
But
There are some thoughts that
let me say this a little more professionally. Okay. Let's say a corporate speak, right? If you identify a
oh Lord.
thought
Yeah.
that is not in alignment with your goals and
Uh-huh.
vision,
Uh-huh.
it must be eliminated, right?
That's
But
right.
the truth of the matter is, I think there's a certain group of people, and I'm not gonna call y'all all the way out, but I think some of y'all believe that some of us don't have those thoughts. I
Oh,
think some of y'all believe
and
that
that is
some
true.
of us who have a particular level of success or who throw up a podcast, like y'all think that we just don't never have no bad thoughts. Oh, but no, see,
That is
there
so rude.
is.
That is rude. That is rude.
Saying you think that your therapist don't never have no bad thoughts. You think your therapist don't never have a limiting belief. You think your therapist don't never have a bad hair day, feel bloated. Like we all have those. It's just what you choose to lean into, what you decide to work on reframing, what you decide to replace. Like that's the key. Like the thought coming, that's happening. That's happening, friend. It's happening because we live in a real world. You
Right.
know.
And the other thing is, you've had the opportunity to have that thought a long time. And so
Mm.
some thoughts are not going to go away overnight. Most thoughts are not going to go away overnight. I want you to think about, Calvin gave us the example of the chain and how you start to develop that neural pathway. I want to use this example along with that is of a beaten path. If you
Mm-hmm.
running through the yard in the same way. It's a reason why you tell people get off the grass because you
Mm-hmm.
want the grass to stay green. You want it plush. You don't want a beaten path through a beautiful yard. You don't want to
Period.
see just a bunch of dirt there. But a thought can be a path, and that's a
Right.
neural pathway that when you think something over and over and over and over and over, then you have a neural pathway that way. So imagine now that you have that patch of dust in your yard because the neighborhood kids have run through their yard time and time and time and time again till there's no grass there. Imagine what you have to do to get grass there. That's what we're
Mm.
talking about now when we're talking about clearing out that mental clutter and what do we do and how do we fix that. We have to now have a routine, a maintenance routine to repair that. And
Right.
so you might have to put some sod down. You might have to plant some grass seed. You may have to put some what's that stuff? Fertilizer,
You
water.
gotta water it.
You got to get the weeds out. Like it's a process. So when you are identifying what you're thinking about that's keeping you from being able to love the life that you have, you
Right.
now need to, after you sorted it out, you figured out what's important and what you want to keep. You've decided that you're learning what matters the most to you. You need a maintenance routine. You have to think on purpose. You have to
Mm.
think on purpose about what is going to help you love your life at this season of your life. And that's the kind of work that you would put in to a patch of dirt where you wanted to see some grass. That's what you would
Right.
do.
Right.
So,
And that's there's no, and so and I think the point there is there's nothing wrong with that. Like the maintenance routine, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you.
Mm,
Like there's people are like, I just, like, am I just going to have to go to therapy forever? Am I going to have to, like, whatever you have, it takes what it takes.
mm-hmm.
Whatever it takes for you to be able, and in some instances, it takes you making some other changes outside of that, right? Like maybe you realize, like, what actually has to happen is I need to spend less time in conversation with this person, and then I can keep my thinking better, right? Or I need to not follow this person on social media, and then I can keep my thinking better, right? So there are different things that you can do to make it easier for you, but as a part of the maintenance process, you do, like, if you've ever cleaned out your closet and then like 6 months later you're like, what happened to this closet? Like if you're not maintaining it, if you're not, turning things over and what have you, it will look like trash.
Right.
So you do want to know that that's part of the process, and it's a valuable part of the process, because the way that we think, the quality of your thoughts really absolutely sets the quality of your life, 100%. And if you're not thinking those quality thoughts on a consistent basis, you will get to a place where you're looking around your life and you're like, what is this dumpster fire, and how do I get out of it?
Mm-hmm.
And we want you to love your life, so we want you to make sure that you're paying attention to those thoughts. And that's part of why we even started the podcast, because we really wanted you to have access to something that was going to give you, it's like a quick and simple way to check your thoughts, right? Like think about your thoughts, not just letting your thoughts run wild with you, but like taking that time to kind of reflect, and having some different conversations with people. Like maybe it's not that you have to stop talking to certain people, but you just have to shift the conversation. Maybe you want to talk about a concept and not a person or something like that. So I think those things are really important too.
And so, as you're looking over your life and you're decluttering your mind, and you might even be decluttering some spaces, we just want to encourage you to give yourself permission to let it be simple, and give yourself
Mm.
permission to grow. And please, we're going to ask you to be patient with yourself, because if
Yeah.
you're unhappy with where you are, I don't think you are lazy. I don't think you're stupid. I don't think you're dumb. I think you've just probably been cluttered. You've been mentally,
Mm-hmm.
emotionally cluttered up, and that's kept you from being able to take the action that you want to take. So, how will you know if you're on the right track? I think you're going to feel more peacefulness. I think that
Yeah.
when you start to like I feel like I have, it was so easy for me once I made the decision to throw away those, to shred those cards, to get rid of those cards. I haven't thought about it again. That's why I didn't have no idea where she was going when she shared that story about those cards, because I haven't thought about it again. I am
Mm-hmm.
so happy that there's one less thing that I have to deal with, that I haven't thought about it anymore. So when you start to go in that direction, expect peacefulness to be a sign of progress for you.
Mm.
And as you start to get more, that's really, let's do it. Let's do a podcast on protect your peace. Because everybody talking about
Okay.
they protecting their peace, but are you really? This is
They not protecting no peace.
I don't
I
think
can answer that question.
this is how you really do it. You get the life that you want, a life that you can love, by making these kind of decisions day after day after day in little bitty small ways, and those small ways start to compound and grow,
Mm-mm.
and then we get the outcome that you want. So listen, we want you to be patient, give yourself time as you're going in that direction, and give yourself praise every single time you're making a
Yeah.
decision that gets you closer to that peacefulness that you seek for, and get you closer to loving the life that you had. This is the only one you
Period.
got. This is the one you got.
This is the only one you got.
You gotta love this one.
Period.
Now, I think if they want help making a mental routine, we should probably help them with that.
You too?
I do. Yes, yes. So allow me to throw Calvin under the bus. And I'm going to
It's our
say,
favorite thing to do.
by the time you see this, listen, I want you to put clean it up in the comment section. If you would like, go, do we have our social media out there? Do they know how to get a hold of us?
They will.
Okay, great. So I'm at Loving Life with Liz, and you are what?
At Kaplan.
At Calvin. Y'all know how to
Mm-hmm.
spell her name, Calvalyn. Okay. Put under the promos for this show, put clean it up in there so we can send you some starter things to do to try to get your mental routine going,
Right.
right? So we want you to have a mental routine where you are intentionally thinking about the right things, and you're able to go through and declutter out the stuff that doesn't get you there, and then a maintenance plan, so what you can keep
Period.
doing to keep it going moving forward. So put clean it up. Put clean it up.
Clean it up. Clean it up.
Put that in the comments, and let's see what happens.
All right. Well, this is another episode for y'all. We cannot wait. I don't know what we're talking about next, but it's going to be a good one. Maybe we talk about protecting your peace. I don't know,
Maybe.
but I also think we probably going to have like some some a podcast about like entrepreneurship and what it's like
Oh
to
yeah.
love yourself to life as you're building a business, because it's a lot of entrepreneurs out here that's looking like they hate their life.
Oh,
But anyway, so we'll talk about that. If you have ideas for an upcoming episode that you want us to talk about, definitely make sure that you drop that in the comments, or shoot us a message, because we will take into consideration what you need, because we do love you and we want you to have exactly what you need.
and we don't love
Until
you
then,
to death, baby. We
we
love you
love you
to
to
life.
life. We'll see y'all next time.